We need a new definition of mentoring. Mentoring is often seen as one person giving and the other person receiving. But I define mentoring as a dynamic, reciprocal relationship that is mutually beneficial, empowering, and enabling. Mentoring is often based on similarity. We're drawn to people who are like us. We gravitate towards those who have similar experiences, who look like us, to whom we can connect. But we need to figure out, how do we move beyond what we see on the surface to underlying similarities? Those similarities can be along our attitudes or our values, the things that we don't see but that are just as important. What research suggests is that the best mentoring happens when we have some similarity and some difference, that we want both in order to build effective mentoring relationships. Mentoring provides a way for people to both share their common ground and also to learn from their alternative perspectives. I said that mentoring can be a tool to leverage our differences and help us find common ground, but I don't want to oversimplify and say that it's easy. There are two dynamics that often stand in the way of really productive mentoring relationships, and they are hesitation and defensiveness. Hesitation and defensiveness are both characterized by being protective in nature. Protective hesitation happens when we don't offer critical feedback and information for fear of offending the other person. So this feedback is not shared, this critical advice is not offered, the person doesn't get the information that they need, and they don't get the opportunity to learn and grow as they might if they got that information. Protective defensiveness happens when we put up walls around ourselves, sometimes for good reason, but as a result, important advice and guidance that we need does not come into us. We don't get this important information, and as a result, it can get in our way. With both hesitation and defensiveness, we're afraid. We're afraid of possibly offending somebody, or we also don't want to be hurt. So it becomes about protecting yourself, limiting risk. The challenge is that it might stop you from getting everything that you can from the relationship. Going beyond protective hesitation and protective defensiveness will enable you to deepen the mentoring relationships such that you get a real exchange and that you're able to leverage the power of mentoring. To move past protective hesitation, here are some strategies to enable you to offer critical feedback in a way that it can be heard. My first suggestion is to offer feedback in the form of a sandwich. Say something positive, then offer the hard critique, then say something positive again. It's so much easier to hear the feedback when it's offered in that format. My second suggestion is to be empathetic and put yourself in your colleague's shoes. You might share with them that you too have received critical feedback that was difficult to take but that ended up benefiting you in the long run. In order to move past protective defensiveness and receive critical feedback, it's helpful to understand that feedback is learning. It's an opportunity to learn. Also, no one is perfect. We all have opportunity to gain and learn from constructive, critical feedback. I was coaching a woman who wanted to really delve into her mentoring relationship, and she shared with me that her mentor gave her some feedback that was very tough to hear. And she listened and she heard this really tough feedback, and she did fine. So her mentor said to her afterwards that he almost started not to give her the feedback because he was nervous. He wasn't sure how she would hear it, and he didn't want for her to think he was giving her this feedback just because she was a woman. But he took a step and moved beyond protective hesitation and offered her the challenging feedback. And she took a step and moved beyond protective defensiveness and received it in a generous way. She said it meant all the world. It actually was very critical. It meant the difference between her getting her next move in that organization. Women often have differential access to influential mentoring relationships. So do men of color. That's why it's important that organizational solutions are offered. They can be so helpful. Setting up mentoring programs can help ensure that everyone has access to the benefits and the wisdom of mentoring relationships. Even with formal mentoring programs, the organizers need to be aware and ensure that the same exclusionary dynamics that prevent women from getting access to influential mentoring don't also come into their programs. There are steps that organizations can take. There are things that senior leaders can do. For example, having each senior leader mentor at least one person of color or one woman can help provide equal access. Formal mentoring programs work best when they're part of a suite of solutions that can help advance women and people of color, paying particular attention to recruiting, retention, and promotions. Three steps to start mentoring relationships include 1, start with self-assessment. 2, identify your purpose. And 3, do some investigation. Start with self-assessment and learning. Really sit down with yourself and think about your strengths, your challenges, what you bring to the table, how you might be able to help someone, and what you would be looking for in return. That leads to mentoring for what purpose? What are the goals and objectives that you have? And how might mentoring help you to reach them? And the final suggestion is to do some investigation. Talk to lots of people. Do your homework. Talk with a broad range of people to figure out who you'd like to partner with in terms of your own career journey. One action that you can take is to take a risk and spend time with someone with whom you'd like to build a relationship. Take the time to figure out your common ground and where you can learn from your differences.